Hello and welcome to World Today. I'm Geeta Mohan and we begin with the man who has been making news on the India-Pakistan tensions. Did he or did he not? US President Donald Trump has spoken yet again on having mediated the ceasefire between India and Pakistan. But this time around, it is his tone that has really changed. After claiming credit for bringing temporary peace to this part of the world, he now has said that he's not sure if he did it, but he surely helped solve the problem. Reiterating his factually incorrect remark of the tensions being 1,000 years old, he also added that the two countries should trade rather than go to war. Meanwhile, Dr. Jaishankar confirmed trade talks between India and the US, which are ongoing with Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal in Washington, D.C. The Indian External Affairs Minister said that the expectation is of a mutually beneficial trade deal, but negotiations are complicated.
I don't want to say I did, but I sure as hell helped settle the problem between Pakistan and India last week, which was getting more and more hostile. And all of a sudden, you'll start seeing missiles of a different type. And we got it settled. I hope I don't walk out of here and 2 days later find out that it's not settled, but I think it is settled. And we talked to them about trade. Let's do trade instead of do war. And Pakistan was very happy with that, and India was very happy with that, and I think they're on the way. You know, they have been fighting for about 1,000 years, in all fairness. So I said, you know, I could settle that up. I could settle anything. Let me settle it up. Let's get them all together. How long have you been fighting? About 1,000 years. Oh, that's a lot. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about settling. That's a tough one. They've been fighting for a long time. But we got that settled. Everybody was very happy, I'll tell you. That looked like it was really going to be escalating out of control. But with us today is the first.
Between India and US, trade talks have been going on, negotiations have been going on. In fact, we have, I think a team is just going at this point. These are very complicated negotiations. They are very intricate. Nothing is decided till you know, everything is. But any trade deal has to be mutually beneficial. Any trade deal has to work for both the countries. And I think that would be our expectation from the trade deal. And until that is done, I think any judgment on it would be premature.
What is Trump up to? To discuss this, I'm being joined by Gaurav Sawant, a managing editor of the network. Gaurav, a slight climb down is what we're seeing over here with what he said, but he's also repeated himself over and over again. What do you make of these statements in a matter of 2 days?
There's been an intense pushback by Government of India and very strong words used by the spokesperson of the Ministry of External Affairs, Randhir Jaiswal, who clarified one. It was the intense bombing of Pakistan, the use of hard military power on the 10th May morning that compelled Pakistan to seek a ceasefire on the 10th afternoon. The call was made by Pakistan's DGMO to his Indian counterpart, and it was a decision of Government of India or the DGMO to agree to Pakistan's ceasefire. There was no third-party intervention. India does not respect a third-party intervention. India does not want a third-party intervention. And there is absolutely no plan of meeting Pakistanis at any third location for resumption of dialogue. And Government of India has also made it very clear the only dialogue with Pakistan is for the return of Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir back to India. And of course, Indus Waters Treaty shall be held in abeyance and shall remain so till the time Pakistan abjures violence and terrorism as an instrument of foreign policy. Donald Trump has made several U-turns. This perhaps is because of his frustration. He thought he will have peace between Russia and Ukraine. He failed. Israel and Hamas, he failed. So he's looking at India and Pakistan as a low-hanging fruit, and India is unwilling to oblige him here.
Okay, but Gaurav, the larger question over here, Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal is in Washington, D.C. It's an awkward moment for India when it comes to holding those trade talks with the United States of America at a time when U.S. has weaponized trade. In such a scenario, can U.S. actually be a reliable partner to India?
That's a very important point you ask and raise. The fact remains, Government of India and External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar made it very clear, a trade deal has to be mutually beneficial. It has to be win-win. A win for India and a win for the United States of America. Only if there's middle ground will there be a trade deal. It cannot just be advantage America or advantage India, and there are intense negotiations. Point one. Point two, look at the manner in which America has adopted bothisms which has disappointed India. Pakistan is a perpetrator of terror. India is a victim of terror. And if both Pakistan and India are equal friends of Donald Trump, it just goes on to show that his understanding or the understanding of his administration needs improvement. He could just go back to his statements in 2019 when he was blaming Pakistan for bleeding America, for killing American soldiers and taking billions of US dollars, taxpayers' money, and still supporting terror.
Right. Right, Gaurav Sawant, thank you so much for joining us here on World Today. Now, just as India gears up for crucial trade talks in Washington, Donald Trump has fired a fresh salvo. Speaking in Doha, the former US president claimed India agreed to drop most tariffs on US goods, a claim not confirmed by New Delhi. Trump also said that he told Apple CEO Tim Cook not to build in India, despite record iPhone exports from India this year. And in a surprise twist, he claimed credit for easing India-Pakistan tensions, saying he used trade as a leverage, a claim India has flatly denied. But although he has had a few climb downs and a few change in the posturing that we see. Now, is this posturing or pressure? We break it down for you.
So we go from the highest tariff, you couldn't do business in India. It's really an honor to see you.
As trade talks between India and the US enter slog overs, with a high-level delegation led by Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal and India's chief negotiator Rajesh Agarwal set to visit the US on 16th of May, the US president is up to his old tricks again.
One of the highest tariff nations in the world. It's very hard to sell into India.
Addressing a press conference in Doha, Qatar, Donald Trump began a two-pronged attack on India to set the stage for trade negotiations. The US president claimed that India has made an offer to drop tariffs on US goods. He said India had agreed to remove practically all tariffs on US products.
One of the highest tariff nations in the world. It's very hard to sell into India. And they've offered us a deal where basically they're willing to literally charge us no tariff. So we go from the highest tariff, you couldn't do business in India. We're not even a top 30 in India because the tariff is so high.
Trump had still more threats to pressure India. The US president also said he had spoken to Apple CEO Tim Cook and told him not to build in India and choose US as its production site. Apple exported iPhones worth 1.5 lakh crore rupees in financial year 2025, accounting for more than 3/4 of India's total smartphone exports. The comments come a day after India hinted at a more aggressive approach towards US tariffs when it threatened to impose retaliatory tariffs in response to higher duties on steel and aluminium.
I had a little problem with Tim Cook yesterday. I said to him, Tim, you're my friend. I treated you very good. You're coming in with $500 billion, but now I hear you're building all over India. I don't want you building in India. You can build in India if you want to take care of India, because India is the highest, one of the highest tariff nations in the world. It's very hard to sell into India.
Trump's latest comments come even as India denies his role in the cessation of recent hostilities with Pakistan. Trump had claimed that he used trade as a bargaining chip to secure the truce. Bureau Report, Business Today Television.
India is stepping up the pressure at the United Nations Security Council, sending a high-powered delegation to New York, armed with fresh evidence linking the resistance front to the deadly Pahalgam terror attack. But as India pushes for a global action against this Lashkar proxy, a familiar obstacle stands in the way: China. So here's the real question: can the world truly fight terror when global politics keeps looking the other way? Our next report.
A high-level Indian delegation, including top intelligence officials, have been in New York this week, holding crucial meetings with key UN counter-terrorism bodies. The team presented detailed dossiers linking the Resistance Front, or TRF, to the April 22nd Pahalgam terror attack that left 26 people dead. TRF has also been tied to several other attacks on Indian soil. You should note, TRF is widely considered a proxy of the Pakistan-based Lashkar-e-Taiba, a group already listed as a UN-designated terrorist organization. India's meetings with the UN's 1267 Sanctions Committee and the Office of Counter-Terrorism focused on tightening the net, from freezing TRF's assets to enforcing travel bans on its operatives.
The 1267 Sanctions Committee, yes, over the last 2 years or so, 23, 24, we have been sharing information with the United Nations Security Council, the monitoring team of the Sanctions Committee, as to why the terrorist TRF, which is the front for Lashkar-e-Taiba, should be listed as a terrorist entity. We will be also, in few days' time, we will be sharing more details in this regard, and hopefully Security Council 1267 monitoring team will take strong note of what we present, what we file, and take due action against that is required.
This diplomatic push also comes in the wake of Operation Sindoor, India's cross-border strikes on terror infrastructure in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. But notably, the UN Security Council's April 25th statement on the Pahalgam attack made no mention of TRF, a glaring omission reportedly due to pressure from China. Beijing, a permanent member of the Security Council, continues to block India's efforts. This despite repeated evidence submissions and even joint proposals with the United States. In fact, China hasn't even allowed TRF to be named in key UN reports. And this isn't new. Beijing has a track record of delaying or blocking terror designations, including those of senior Jaishankar and Lashkar operatives. With China shielding Pakistan-backed groups like TRF, the question remains: can global counter-terror mechanisms hold firm when geopolitics gets in the way? With Rudrashish Kanjilal, Bureau Report, India Today Global.
Now, Pakistan has exposed itself yet again. After the decimation of Muritk in Operation Sindoor launched by India, the Pakistani government has now pledged to rebuild Lashkar-e-Taiba terror hub, Muritk. Though Pakistan claims that the country is economically bankrupt and urges for funding from the IMF under the guise of economic instability, the truth remains that Pakistan is using these funds not to develop their nation, but to make its terror hubs even stronger so that they can unleash fountain of terrorism and bleed India.
Pakistan does it again. Muritk, one out of the 9 terror hubs decimated by India in Operation Sindoor, is to be rebuilt. The Pakistani government has pledged to rebuild the area at its own expense. Pakistan's Federal Minister Rana Tanveer Hussain had visited Muritk and said Muritk will be rebuilt.
जो नुकसान हुए हैं जिस तरह मस्जिद का हुआ है या दूसरी इमारत का हुआ है वो हुकूमत जो है वज़ीर आज़म साहब और आर्मी चीफ सैयद आसम अली साहब जनरल साहब वो कहते हैं हम खुद जिसको दोबारा रिकंस्ट्रक्ट करेंगे मैं आपको ये बताना और साथ ही उनकी जो फैमिली है जो शहीद हैं या ज़ख्मी हैं उनको भी उनको पूरा लुक आफ्टर किया जाएगा उनके फैमिली को बच्चों को.
Meanwhile, Pakistan has received another round of financial support from the International Monetary Fund. This time, the country got around $1.2 billion under the Extended Fund Facility, which is a long-term loan program. The news was shared by Pakistan's central bank, State Bank of Pakistan, adding that the amount will show up in its foreign exchange reserves for the week ending May 16. At a time when Pakistan claims to be financially bankrupt and looks forward to IMF funding, Pakistan government's pledge to rebuild Muritk only proves India's claims that Pakistan is using IMF funds for building terror camps, unleashing terror and compensating terrorists, to the tune of 100 crores when 100 terrorists are killed. On May 7, India launched Operation Sindoor to avenge the killing of 26 tourists in Pahalgam. India struck 9 terror bases in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Muritk was one of the sites that was targeted during the operation. The main targets of the strikes were the jihadist structures of Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Toiba, the 2 terrorist organizations responsible for major attacks on Indian soil over the past 3 decades. Located around 33 kilometers from Lahore, Muritk was the headquarters of the Lashkar-e-Toiba. The Markaz complex, like the headquarters of Jaish-e-Mohammed in Bahawalpur, had been the nerve center of the LET, operating as its ideological, logistical and operational base. It was established in the late 1980s by Hafiz Muhammad Saeed. Bureau Report, India Today.
The International Atomic Energy Agency, that's IAEA, said claims being made on social media that Pakistan's nuclear facilities were hit by Indian armed forces during Operation Sindoor are not true. The global nuclear watchdog said there was no radiation leak as claimed by Pakistan or release from any nuclear facility in Pakistan during the India-Pakistan conflict. Meanwhile, India reiterated that it will not tolerate Pakistan's nuclear blackmail. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh, while on his visit to Srinagar, issued a stern warning to Pakistan, putting a rest to concerns over Pak's nukes. The defense minister said India will not tolerate Pakistan's nuclear blackmail, asserting that Pakistan is a rogue nation and cannot take care of nuclear weapons. He has urged global nuke watchdog IAEA to take over Pakistan's nuclear arsenal. Rajnath's message echoed Prime Minister Modi's warning that New Delhi will not tolerate any nuclear blackmail from Islamabad. PM Modi, during an address to the nation, outlined clear terms under which India will engage with Pakistan in the future, if at all. Earlier too, Air Marshal A.K. Bharati, Director General of Air Operations, had rejected suggestions that India hit Kirana Hills, home to Pakistan's nuclear installations.
आज आतंकवाद के खिलाफ भारत की प्रतिज्ञा कितनी कठोर है, इसका पता इसी बात से चलता है कि हमने उनके न्यूक्लियर ब्लैकमेल की भी परवाह नहीं की है। पूरी दुनिया ने देखा है कि कैसे गैर जिम्मेदाराना तरीके से पाकिस्तान द्वारा भारत को अनेक बार एटमी धमकियां दी गई हैं। आज श्रीनगर की धरती से मैं पूरी दुनिया के सामने यह सवाल उठाना चाहता हूं कि क्या ऐसे गैर जिम्मेदार और रोग नेशन के हाथों में परमाणु हथियार सुरक्षित हैं? मैं दुनिया के सामने यह सवाल खड़ा करना चाहता हूं। मैं मानता हूं कि पाकिस्तान के एटमी हथियारों को IAEA, इंटरनेशनल एटॉमिक एनर्जी एजेंसी की निगरानी में लिया जाना चाहिए। मैं ये कहना चाहूंगा और साफ तौर पर कहना चाहूंगा।
In what could be a major geopolitical flashpoint, Baloch nationalist leaders have just declared symbolic independence from Pakistan. With calls for a Republic of Balochistan, fresh demands to India and the UN, and a violent surge on the ground, this decades-old insurgency is making global noise yet again. But as the dust rises, one big question remains. Is the world finally ready to take the Balochistan question seriously?
In a dramatic escalation, Baloch nationalist leaders have issued a symbolic declaration of independence from Pakistan, reigniting decades-old tension in the restive province of Balochistan. MEA Baloch, a prominent activist and writer, took to social media last week to announce the formation of a so-called Republic of Balochistan. He called on the Indian government to open a Baloch embassy in New Delhi and urged the United Nations to recognize the move, even requesting funds for passports, currency and state functions. His declaration came with visuals of Baloch flags and maps marking an independent homeland. All this amid a spike in violence. The Balochistan Liberation Army claimed responsibility for 71 coordinated attacks across 51 locations, calling it Operation Sindoor. They say the targets were Pakistani military bases, police posts and convoys transporting minerals from the resource-rich region. The Baloch struggle dates back to 1948 when the princely state of Kalat was forcibly annexed by Pakistan. Since then, waves of insurgencies have demanded either autonomy or full independence. But it is not just history fueling this fight. It's alleged human rights abuses. Disappearances and extrajudicial killings have reignited fury on the ground. Strategically, Balochistan is home to the multi-billion-dollar Gwadar port central to China's CPAC project. But locals say they have been sidelined, displaced and silenced. As symbolic lines are being drawn, the question now is, will Balochistan finally see a global reckoning? With Rudrashish Kanjilal, Bureau Report, India Today Global.
With that, it's a wrap on this edition of World Today. Thank you for watching. Goodbye and take care.